The Madman Jeff actually did it and introduced hero pools to the game of Overwatch. I'm going to be breaking down all the tips and tricks that you need to know so that you could start dominating when hero pools are implemented this next competitive season. There are a lot of really important implications for you as a player, and if you master these specific tips, you could start getting that sweet SR before your competition, rising rank after rank. With all that being said, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So the first thing I'm going to do here is break down exactly what hero pools are and what that means for you as a player. The first thing is hero pools is going to be introduced this next competitive season, and what it's going to be is in the comp rotation, they're going to systematically target characters that are the most impressive, the most powerful, and the most dominant, and for a week at a time, these characters are going to be unable to be selected for competitive play. Now, I know that a lot of you might have a knee-jerk reaction to this and think it's really crazy news, but fear not, I'm going to break it down for some things that you need to think about what this is really pertaining to. A lot of the language that Jeff brings when he talks about this change is that it's going to talk about meta specifically, and it's really going to target the high tiers of play. So characters that are really dominant at the highest tiers of play are going to be targeted way more than the lower tiers, so you don't really have to worry about your niche pick that you play. Your Soldier 76, your Tracer at the lower ranks, if you like to play these characters, they're more than likely not going to get touched, and that's really important. It's only going to be the highest tier of play, but for metas where Doomfist is the most dominant at high ranks and low ranks, and Doomfist gets banned out of the meta for a week, you could be like, oh, as a support, I'm cleared up, I can be more aggressive, I can take more aggressive positioning, I'm not going to be farmed by this Doomfist because he's banned. And overall, in my opinion, this brings tons of benefits that I'm really going to break down. It has some negatives, but overall, I just love the fact that we're not going to have stagnant metas. I mean, metas like Dive, Goats, Double Shield, we had these metas for many months at a time, and staleness is honestly the worst part of Overwatch. I'm fine with dynamic metas, constantly changing games, characters becoming viable and not viable, because really that allows more characters to be played, but as a player, it requires specific things from us. It requires us to be more flexible, and things I'm going to break down right now. But first, let's really dig into what I mean about the pros of hero pools. So the first biggest pro that I think that everyone can get behind, unless you're one of these players yourself, which I really hope that no GameLeap player is one of these, but the biggest pro is there's no more one tricks. One tricks are pretty much non-existent. I mean, you could really one trick a character that is never going to get banned, but more often than not, if you're really winning any of your games, if you're playing a character that has a decent win rate, you're playing a character that can be impressive, whether you're one tricking Mei, you're one tricking Wrecking Ball or Roadhog or anything, at some point your character is going to get banned, and you could either choose not to play, which for the rest of us, we're okay with that. If you're a one trick and you choose not to play for a week, we don't have to have you in our games, which is great. And I personally think that one tricking as a whole will be far reduced because of this system, which I like a lot. Do you want in-depth guides telling you everything you need to know to improve? Then come give our website a shot. GameLeap.com has hundreds of guides over every character in the game to ensure that you're prepared for any meta. Every single guide is made by Grandmaster players, so you get the absolute best tips and strategies out there, all in the same spot. So what are you waiting for? Come check us out in the links down below. Another thing is more dynamic and diverse gameplay, which I talked to before. You might think that banning some heroes actually makes it so you can play like there's less diversity, but that's really not the case, because what happens is there's certain characters that really hold down a giant amount of the roster. Think of a character like Brig. She punishes Tracer, she punishes Genji, a lot of different divers, Monkey. And if she's all of a sudden banned, all these characters that are being held hostage per se by Brig are all of a sudden opened up, and a dive meta is all of a sudden the best thing that you could possibly be playing, because Brig is the one character that really put a damper on Dive's reign for so long. It's really interesting because a meta can change all of a sudden, and people don't really know how to play the meta perfectly, but that's something that you can really take into account. We're going to give you some up-to-date ways to play these new compositions as they come out, as well as give you some best heroes each and every week. But the thing about hero pools that I'm most excited about out of anything is think about when a new big patch comes out. Like right now, a big new patch comes out. For the preceding couple of weeks afterwards, it feels like anything is viable. It feels like no one really knows what's perfect. No one can play things perfect, but there's a lot of different nuance into trying this thing or trying that thing, and no one is saying, hey, don't play Genji, that's not viable. Hey, don't play this character, that's not viable, because there is no meta. But if after we had 8 months of goats and that's the only meta, if you go just a single hair off the meta, you get flamed instantly, which is not going to happen with hero pools, which I love and I think is great. Now let's really dig into the things that you need to start doing right now to prepare yourself for hero pools. If you want to dominate hero pools, this is what you need to do. So the first thing that you need to do is flexibility. I know many times in the past I talked about the fact that you need to specialize. You need to specialize in a role, you need to specialize in a select number of heroes, because that's how you maximize your improvement. And I still believe that, but with this new system in place, your hero pool needs to be wide enough to where you don't get banned out of a meta, because you don't want to have your SR dramatically tank or rise depending on what's banned. So you want flexibility, and flexibility is going to be really powerful because there's going to be certain heroes that are going to be really powerful at certain metas. Think about something like a Wrecking Ball. Maybe Wrecking Ball's decent or good overall, but all of a sudden if they ban Sombra or they ban Mei a particular week, Wrecking Ball will literally be free SR because he can be uncontested and characters can't swap to counter him, which is one of the big ways that you lose a lot of games on Wrecking Ball. So if you don't have the flexibility to pick up that character, you're not going to be able to tap into that free SR. It could be the same for a lot of different heroes. Maybe Widowmaker's banned one week and then all of a sudden Pharah is just completely dominant at every rank. So you need to understand that there are certain characters that are going to be worth to flex to, and then certain characters that are going to be more powerful depending on what's banned. Now at the same time, I say flexibility is important. Don't go overboard. You still want to be good at the characters that you like to play, and for the vast majority of the time, the character you like to play is probably not going to get banned. I mean, let's say if your main is something like McCree, he might get banned for 1 week in a particular, big season, but for the majority of the time, he's not going to be perma-banned. So he's going to be able to be played, and you might have some fallback, but you still want to make sure that you're putting in the time to make sure that you're good at your main, because if you're too flexible, when you can play your characters, you're not going to be as good on those characters as you possibly could be. So flexibility is important, but learning specific heroes that are better when some characters are banned, and I'm going to go into that more in other videos. Don't go too crazy, but it is more important than it was before. Now, the next thing that you need to do is you need to understand what each nerf means. So we talked about that with the Pharah example. When a character is banned, you need to understand what that cascade effect means. We talked about it with the Brig example where dive is all of a sudden shut down. And so people could be thinking, dive hasn't been played in so long. Why would one Brig ban mean that dive's all of a sudden good? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Armor shuts down dive. Brig can bash away enemies. She can pressure enemies. She can trigger that Inspire. Her rally makes it so Tracer doesn't do that much damage. She can stun Genji. She can just melee Winston's. Winston's can't fight her 1v1. Divas can be stunned. There's so many different things that Brig brings to the table that just shuts down dive. And if you look at it that way, her being removed, it doesn't matter what else is powerful. All of a sudden, dive could be better than that. And that's something that's understanding what is holding back each individual thing. Something like Mei, if Mei's all of a sudden gone, all of a sudden, maybe Ryan Zara is good again. Maybe Ryan Zara could just be the comp that you want to play to go into the enemy team, to be really aggressive, and it's better than Ryan Diva. There's different scenarios where a certain combo can all of a sudden be better depending on what's nerfed, and you kind of need to look at the grand scheme of things, really stretch your game sense and your understanding of the game, and we're going to be providing videos that also help you go along with this thought process, because the better you can think critically about what each individual nerf means, you could be the first player that's already on whatever is the best character to play. I mean, if you think, oh, all of a sudden Pharah's going to be viable this week, I'm going to be playing Pharah, I'm going to practice her in advance, and then you whip out Pharah, you're going to just farm the enemies for game after game after game and win tons of SR in the process. On top of that, probably going to be some overlap in Overwatch League Pro Play because they're doing some similar thing. It's not quite the same. They're doing it every 2 weeks, but it's going to be similar. And you should really try to take notes from what they're doing, because they're going to show you what they do and what they play and what's the absolute strongest when certain things are nerfed. And that's something that we can all learn from as a community. Now, another thing that you need to understand is meta still doesn't really matter. So this is another thing that's really important. And the fact of the matter is, unless you were in Masters or higher, most of the time meta wasn't played at all. And if it was played, it wasn't really played to the capacity that it was needed to play to shut out all these style of plays. For example, someone could be playing meta and you could still play Soldier in Diamond, in Gold, in Plat, because the Sigma doesn't shut you down the way he should shut you down. The Arista doesn't pull you. You don't get pull rocked. These are plays that need to shut you down, and that higher ranks always did, so you couldn't get value on Soldier. But for the lower ranks, these weren't executed with enough synergy to actually shut you down. So what I'm saying is, even when a character is banned, it doesn't necessarily mean the meta matters that much. What you should really be looking at is more of an individual basis. It's like, my character's counters is nerfed. That means that character is more viable. Looking at things from an individual basis is probably the most consistent way to make sure you're playing a strong hero, as opposed to trying to look at the macro side of things. The macro side of things can be important, but for the people that play specifically in the lower ranks, everything is viable. And when things are nerfed, just think about, is that a character that is putting down characters you play or putting down characters that you could play? And if that's the case, maybe those characters are even more viable. And if Pharah's all of a sudden nerfed, you could look at it as an individual basis. It's like, okay, we could be playing this defensive 2CP map, let's say like Iconwald first 2CP, and the predominant thought for a lot of players is, hey, we need a hit scan in every scenario. scenario just in case the enemy swaps to far. But if they're physically incapable, then you don't even need to hit scan. Like, you don't have to play that because the enemy can't possibly swap to far. You never need to counter. So you could be playing something like Junkrat May. That's all of a sudden viable, when before it wouldn't be viable because the far swap could just completely dominate you and you would have nothing to counteract it. So that's thinking about a character by character basis instead of trying to look at the macro all the time. Now let's move on to another big concept that you need to understand is you really need to let go of don't play X. So something that's important is people said this a lot at lower ranks where don't play X, this is not viable. And like I said before, I made multiple videos about the fact that at lower ranks, meta doesn't really matter, but that's even more the case now. So like I said with the Domino example, maybe Tracer is just not viable because people keep playing Brig and she just keeps getting farmed over and over. But if Brig is gone, maybe Tracer is now the best DPS. So if you bring in the preconceived notion that Tracer is a bad DPS due to prior metas and you take that into every future game, you're not looking at the big picture and you're not looking what the implications for Brig being nerfed is. So reality, things are going to be viable more than anything, and no one's going to be playing things to the best effectiveness. That really makes everything that's not banned more viable inherently. So I don't want to see any of that. Don't play X, swap off this, that character's bad. Those things do not matter, and they'll matter even less when hero pools are introduced. Something that is really powerful now is trying to find a combination that's held back by X. I talked about individual play styles, but there are certain combinations that you could play that are even better. And so let's go back to the Pharah example. If Widowmaker's banned, which is one of the best ways to deal with Pharah Mercy, all of a sudden they have McCree, Soldier. These hit scans still exist, but with the Pharah Mercy, Pharah is going to be so oppressive now, which is really powerful. And you can also look at things like really powerful combinations. Let's say a support is banned that really does a lot to stop a Genji from nanoblading. Let's say Baptiste is banned and there's no immortality field, or Lucio is banned, and because Lucio is banned, we're seeing a lot more like Mora Brig or something like that. Now Nanoblade is really powerful because there's less defensive ults being played. So that's a powerful combination. Try to find a buddy, try to find a duo, and do these powerful combinations. If you think about things that shut these powerful combinations down before, they're even more powerful now if those things are removed, or even if a hero is removed that two characters were being held back by, then you and your buddy can both play those heroes and your impact is even amplified even more so. Here at GameLeap, we're going to be making a lot of lists about the big winners. Each and every week, we're going to be trying to provide you with some of the implications for the bans, what the bans mean, what the characters you should be playing, and maybe give out some guides about how to maximize that character, because I know that flexibility is something hard to learn. Learning how to play a character in each given meta is something hard to learn. It takes a lot of time, and we want to give you the leg up on your competition to make sure that you already know the fundamentals, the way you should play a character, so that when you play it in each and every changing meta that comes out week to week, you can be at the forefront. You could be ready to start popping off, be better than your enemies who are going to take the whole week to learn how to play a certain character when you're already going to know, because we're going to be providing you with all that useful information. So I really hope that this guide has helped you understand some of the things that you could start doing to dominate hero pools. If you want to know more about how to dominate hero pools, or you want to improve the individual skill level on any character when the new character becomes more viable in the inevitable hero pools that are coming out this next competitive season, definitely come check out GameLeap.com. We have in-depth guides and VOD reviews that can put you in the POV of a Grandmaster player, so you know all the things that you need to do to have the most amount of impact and how to adapt to each and every situation. We got you covered, and I know you won't regret coming and checking us out. Anyways, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, as well as any comments about hero pools. Do you like it, dislike it? Are you glad one tricks are no longer going to be a thing? Or are you really sad that you can't one trick your favorite hero over and over again? I really hope that that's not you, but that's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time,